Hey, this is Pat Ricard, aka Project Pat, and you're listening to the Baltimore Beatdown Podcast, the best Ravens podcast on the planet.
It's pretty incredible. In fact, it's LaMarvelous.
Thank you, guys.
All right, welcome on back to another edition of the Baltimore Beatdown Podcast. It is Thursday night, January 7th, recording for our Friday, January 8th episode. My name is Jake Luke. I'm joined by Spencer Nathaniel Schultz, who is enraged by his technology. Hair looking great tonight, too. And it looks like Derrick Henry has joined us here as well.
That's how you have to label this show, like Baltimore Beatdown, with special guest Derrick Henry.
Yeah, so
you have to advertise it as that.
Yeah, maybe we will. I've already got the name going here. Ever since we made the switch to live streaming, I've gotten a little less creative with the naming because of just the fact that I have to write it out before. But no, it is not Derrick Henry, despite him having a little bit of fun with us here. It is Mr. Eric Arditti. Is that how you say it?
You nailed it, and it's very rarely nailed like that. But no, that's perfect.
Well, I think I probably nailed it because you go by the handle of RDT. So I think kind of spelling it out there. And as somebody with a weird last name myself, I kind of feel a little bit of kingship with you there. But here you are, buddy, joining us on, we were talking a little bit before we got going here, pretty much almost the anniversary of the other time you were on the show to preview a Ravens-Titans playoff game. And as we all know, didn't go great for us. Yeah,
it definitely could have gone better. I had fun watching it last year. I had fun watching the game in November. It's funny because the November game was on last night as we were recording our podcast. So I was, throughout the episode, I was like narrating where we were in the game. It was like, I don't know. The Titans look dead in the water here. I don't think they can come back from this. And Banks and Taylor were not too happy with that. But yeah, it's funny. I mean, it's going to be the third time we've seen these two teams play in the last, I guess, calendar year. And you normally don't see that if it's not a divisional opponent. And we're getting back to that early 2000s, rivalry like we talked about last year. The fans don't seem to like each other very much. The teams definitely don't like each other very much. Now it seems like the coaches don't. And I mean, but again, you've got two of the best teams. I think in the AFC, two of the better teams, two of the most talented teams and rosters, and teams with a lot of fun players and a lot of just playmakers on all sides of the ball, pretty much. Well, not the Titans defense, but, everywhere else pretty much.
Oh, they turn into playmakers as soon as they step foot in Baltimore. Rashaan Evans, a fucking tackling machine. Kenny Vaccaro is like Jamal Adams all of a sudden. But you mentioned that the coaches don't like each other that much, which was made evident. And it's just such good early 2000s vibes, which you also mentioned, like chef's kiss. We're back to some good old shit stick AFC Central type football. You love to see it. You just love to see it. It feels good. Yeah, and I mean, one of my earliest football Baltimore Titans rivalries, one of the moments was after the Ravens beat the Titans in that AFC, I guess it was the divisional round playoffs, and Brian Billick was in the locker room and they had, the cameras in there and you could hear him say, shut the cameras off. Everyone shut the cameras off. And the one guy kind of just tilts his camera down so you can't see. And he says fuck them, and everyone goes crazy. And yeah, so again, it's like that. I'm sure Jeff Fisher was not happy with that. And again, we're kind of getting back to that, okay, and now the coaches are mixing it up. So I think the teams have a mutual respect for each other. I definitely know the Titans. I mean, they respect the hell out of the Ravens just because of how they play, the offense. And Lamar, I mean, again, I'm not a Ravens fan, but Lamar is worth the price of admission every single time to watch him. So I know some of the guys in the building and have talked to them the last couple of weeks with the Titans. And they're just yeah. And I was kind of echoing this on social media. And I don't know if people thought I was joking or trying to
tease people online. Like I tweeted 10 minutes into the Ravens game on Sunday, like, well, we're getting Titans Ravens again. And people were like, I was getting some shit. And I was like, no, I don't want to play you guys. Like, I don't want to play the Ravens. I'm terrified. Like I'm legitimately terrified.
You're big time Michael Scott getting in front of the story on it, which I do appreciate. Kind of controlling the narrative. So that's a good job by you. But it is turning into a rivalry in that respect, and kind of throwback to. I was tweeting a little bit today. It reminds me of what made the Ravens Steelers like rivalry great at its best, like in 08 through whatever 2012. Like two teams that are very similar, kind of built in sort of throwback ways, and they have a lot of big personalities. And yeah, I think right down to the two quarterbacks even being a little bit mobile. I think it's kind of a similar setup. So I like that. But you did mention kind of having the Ravens stuff going on. I did want to give you a quick second to, since you hopped on this podcast, I guess maybe we inspired you and a couple of your friends to start a podcast of your own. So I wanted to give you a chance to dish on that a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. We're at Exit 52 Podcast on Twitter and the Apple and Spotify and everywhere that you get podcasts and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, like we were talking about, in the DMs earlier today, it's like the more the merrier. And we love mixing it up with you guys and the other blogs and podcasts and all that stuff. And I know you and Banks have now grown, become friends and like I was telling you, it seems that your name always comes up, because again, we BS around for an hour and a half. Last night, I think we BS for like 3 hours before we actually hit record on the episode, but your name always comes up. And so again, I mean, we love what you guys are doing over here. And again, we're I think we're all trying to represent Baltimore the best that we can. And again, I'm not a Ravens fan, but there's some damn good sports in this town. There's some damn good personalities. There's a lot of good athletes. So we figured we'd throw, our hat in the ring.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus you guys cover the Terps, the Orioles, everything all around. So definitely go give Exit 52 a listen if you have not, which I feel like a ton of our listeners probably have.
Yeah, I think there's probably a good amount of cross-pollination, I guess you would call it. And they're also doing a great thing with your Be There for Be More campaign too, supporting small businesses. So you're off to a hot start. I'm a listener myself, and definitely wanted to give you the opportunity to kind of pump your stuff a little bit coming on here. But I guess jumping into the preview proper for the game. So like I touched on with you before we got going here, we start with the offense. So how would you kind of compare the Titans offense right now compared to where they were at the first time these two teams met back in November?
Yeah. I'm trying to remember if I think Lawan was already out that game.
Yeah, he was.
He was. He had just gotten hurt, I think, right?
Okay, yeah. Did he get hurt? I think he got hurt in the Steelers game.
Also was out,
too. Who was?
Saffold was as well.
Yes, yeah, and it's looking.
Then Bang Jones played. He was like questionable, but he got into, I think.
Yeah, he's been, again, I mean, most of the guys have been banged up for a majority of the season, but I know Saffold is questionable now. I know yesterday he literally came out to the media and was like, yeah, I'm playing Sunday, like regardless. And then today he was questionable. I know AJ Brown missed a practice today, or I think he was limited today after not practicing yesterday, or he didn't practice after being limited yesterday, whichever one. But I mean, we're at that part of the season where there's not a single person on any team in the NFL right now that's healthy. And so the offense, it's still humming. I think that Ravens game was the first game of like a 5 or 6 game stretch where the Titans averaged, I think, like high 30s in points. They were like reeling them off.
45, 35, 31, 46.
They had some nice offensive explosions, and not that the Ravens game in November was an offensive explosion. But they had some nice, efforts after that game. So I don't know what kickstarted them there. And it's funny, like Derrick Henry only had, I think, 133 yards and like I saw people this week on Facebook or, in Twitter and all that being like, yeah, we limited him pretty well in November. And it's like, man, if you're limiting someone and it's 133 yards, like that's insane. So he's running the ball the best that I've ever seen. Again, it's nuts that he can go into a week 17 game and you can go, yeah, he's 223 yards away from 2,000. And you're like, by halftime, you're like, yeah, he's going to get it. Like he's 110 yards away, which is, you just can't say that about many running backs. I feel like the receivers are clicking more. AJ Brown has really come on the last couple of weeks. And same thing, Corey Davis has been my biggest surprise of the entire year. Coming into the year after they had declined that 5th-year option, I was kind of ready to call him a bust. And I mean, he was the number 5 pick in the draft, and he ended up, I can't remember if he got 1,000 yards. I know he was like 12 or 13 yards away at one point in the Texans game, but he really came on, and I mentioned him last night in our podcast. He's the guy that if he's over 80, 90 yards, it's trouble for the other team. That means that, AJ is getting his, or if Marlon Humphrey's taking AJ Brown out of the game, and then you just got Marcus Peters on Corey Davis, I think a lot of the time Corey Davis is going to get his, I think. And again, I said he was the most important player, not named Derrick Henry or AJ Brown on the Titans offense, or Ryan Tannehill. But yeah, I mean, the offense is moving. They're playing pretty well. Jonnu Smith started out the season hot, and he's kind of come back down to earth. He had an ankle injury, I think, in the Ravens game, and he had kind of slowed down. But they've got weapons. It's just if Tannehill can protect the ball. I know we saw him throw that pick, which he got just destroyed early in the game. I think second quarter, that game in November. If he can hold on to the ball and we've seen the last couple of weeks, and Jake, I know you tweeted about it today. If he can make some of those plays with his legs, I mean, their offense is dangerous. I remember when Vince Young was a quarterback, I used to like close my eyes when he would throw because I was like, I'm going to watch a pick. I'm just terrified. And now it's just like, it's very rare that I've seen a Titans offense like this with the two legit wide receivers, a tight end, and a beast of a running back.
Sven, you've been doing your homework on this team the last couple of days, really doing a little crash course. What have you seen out of this offense recently?
We got into it before the first matchup. Them and the Browns, to me, run a very similar offensive structure. They've got some badass big bodies, and I count the Titans receivers into big body category. Corey Davis and AJ Brown are monsters.
I often call you a badass big body off there too.
Ooh, big boys. I got 10 of those, baby.
You gotta pay for that stuff though.
Oh yeah. $6.99, baby. But they got big bodies. They like to go heavy. They run those 12 personnel as 21 personnel. And the Browns are a little different, but the Titans run zone scheme. Ryan Tannehill is fucking fast, and they boot off of it. And Derrick Henry is a scary motherfucker when he gets a runway. And the misconception about Henry, and it's not that he's not a power back, but it's that he's such a finesse back. He is so patient. He's so fast and explosive when he gets to the perimeter. That is what scares you. When he's running between the tackles, he can do some damage. But when he gets a seam, when they run outside or they run front side C gap, and he just gets a seam, if somebody doesn't get off a block, if linebackers don't fill the right way, he makes you pay. And then all of a sudden, Ryan Tannehill is pretty much faster than like most defensive ends, most edge players, and they can boot off of it. And teams get really scared. They get scared of Derrick Henry, and so they want to bring a safety into the box. They want to bring 8 guys into the box. And what that does is creates pretty much an island for, as you were talking about, AJ Brown and Corey Davis, who can separate. They're balanced. They are big. They have a big catch radius. They're quick. They're fast. They're strong. Especially AJ Brown is scarier than Davis even because he's so disgusting after the catch. He can run away from you. He can run through you, break tackles and stuff. And so teams are like, well, shit, we got to put a guy in the box because Henry's going to hurt us. But Tannehill threw 31 touchdowns. Like, Tannehill is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL this year. And his ball placement is probably the best. Like, he throws into tight windows every game. Every game he squeezes balls into tight windows and hits those big body guys. And so they just get rocking side to side. The Titans work you laterally with the boot stuff. And then they'll sneak attack you with, just some straight drop back stuff. And Tannehill is fine. I mean, he's dandy as a passer all around. Titans fans are ecstatic to have Tannehill. He is the best quarterback they've had since McNair. Like,
R.I.P.
Yeah, R.I.P. baby. Ravens. That's where we get the handshakes. That's where we get the.
Yeah. That's this gift.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Common ground. But the thing is, like, teams are so scared of Henry, and in that Ravens game, the conclusion that I got to, and I guess it's more into like the defensive side, but if Derrick Henry ran for, I believe, about 345 yards the last 2 times that the Ravens have played Derrick Henry. And like you said, Artie, I butchered that. But
no, you
like
crossed
you said,
that.
The Ravens fans like, oh, we contained him. I mean, he averaged 4.8 yards a carry. Like, you contained him to his standards. But you still lost. You still got run on, and you still lost. So why not just drop a fucking safety and play too high? Let your front 7 try to deal with Henry. And that way, AJ Brown and Corey Davis aren't obliterating you over the middle of the field and running away from you. So then I went into SIS's database, and I was like, what's Ryan Tannehill's, just straight numbers against cover 2, cover 4, and man cover 2, where you got 2 high looks basically. And Tannehill threw 4 touchdowns, 3 picks, and threw like 61 completion percentage. And then you go look at single high, where guys are bringing 8, when teams are bringing 8 into the box. He threw 24 touchdowns and 6 picks. They obliterate you when you bring that guy into the box in the passing game. And play action is a great part of that. Tannehill's speed is a great part of that. Defensive lines not being able to rush the passer because they're scared of Henry is a big part of that. And it's like a really well-constructed, basic in some ways offense. And then once they get into the red zone, Arthur Smith is just a fucking madman and starts running pop passes and end arounds and like
halfback passes.
Exactly. And so it's a really, basic, well-executed offense with a really accurate quarterback, a really dangerous running back, and guys that can separate. And then they get into the red zone and start, hitting you with stuff you haven't seen on tape all year. So their offense is lethal, and you can't just beat them. If you put 8 in the box, Henry still runs on you. So why not just sit a guy back and try to take away Davis and Brown?
2,000 yards for Henry. I never thought we were going to see that again. Eric, are there any games where it felt like he got either, I would assume he never got completely stopped, but is there any game, I mean, we touched on it already with the Ravens kind of doing it. Is there any game where you remember thinking man, they're really slowing him down here? And what do you remember specifically if that happened? Because I'm not sure it did.
I mean, if anything, it was like the Browns game where obviously the Browns get out to, I think it was a 17-0, 24-7 type lead. And I was talking to Banks about this last night or the other day, and it's like people, anytime people watch the Titans game, if they're down, people always kind of clown on the Ravens, and we saw it in the game, in November, where they're like, "You're down 10. Why? It's third quarter. Why the hell are you running the ball? You can't. You got it." And it's like the Titans are very good at sticking to what they do best, and we made the whole point as to it's what Greg Roman didn't do in the playoff game, where again they panicked. The Titans don't panic. And they seem to always, Derrick Henry is going to get his carries. And the Cleveland game was the one game where, again, it seemed like they just physically took the ball out of Derrick Henry's hands because, again, they were down 17, they were down 24. So, and I'm looking right now, he ended up with, 15 carries for 60 yards. He had that game. He had, the Buffalo game early on in the season, which I can't even really remember. Titans were up so big that game, he only had 19 for 57. And then I don't know how he didn't run for more against the Jaguars in week 2. But and same thing, when he had 20 carries for 75 yards against the Steelers in I think it was week 8, that big undefeated matchup when they had it. And that was the same thing. They kept the ball out of his hands because the Steelers got up huge in that game, and the Titans did end up chipping back. But I mean, no one has really been able to stop him. That's the thing. If you want to hold him to, I mean, if you're 15 carries for 60 yards, stuff like that, that's absolutely shutting him down. But that's the formula, is to get two or three scores out ahead of these guys, where that's when Arthur Smith is like, okay, now we can't rush the ball on first down. And I think Derrick Henry had 1,300 yards rushing just on first downs, which would have been, I think it was more than everyone but Dalvin Cook in the NFL. So it's like, what they're going to do. Like, they're going to run the ball on first down. And maybe that's something that Arthur Smith does change, because now everyone's aware of it and they've seen tape. And again, Wink Martindale's he's a hell of a defensive coach, and I'm not sure if he's back next year. I know he's high on a lot of head coaching lists, but I mean, again, if the Ravens get out to a 17-0, 20-3, that's when I think you'll see them start going away from giving him the ball, and that's the best way to shut down Derrick Henry. Is, again, a 3-score lead, and Lamar Jackson has the ball, and you're draining that clock, because then that's when you get into the traditional, like, okay, now we got to go. Now we have to just run, bomb it to Brown and Davis and see what we can get.
And that kind of happened, though, in their first matchup. The Titans were down 11. Henry had, I think, 11 carries for 31 yards in the first half. And Ravens were using 2 safeties high. And then, I believe Lamar threw a pick, and it was either 21-13 or 21-10, and the Ravens kept putting 8 in the box. And for me, it's like, I would kind of rather have have 7 guys in the box, let Derrick Henry run a little bit. That's wasting time. In the second half, Davis and Brown had 9 gains of 10 yards. Henry had 3. And, they'll throw their way back into it. If you kind of like respect the run, they'll still bleed you out. They're just so balanced in that way. Titans run 65% of first downs, highest rate in the NFL, like you mentioned. And for me, at the end of the day, it's just like, all right, Baltimore, you basically went out and we mentioned Titans didn't have Saffold. They didn't have Lawan, obviously. Lawan's not coming back. Saffold's maybe able to do a heroic performance. He's an absolute fucking brute force.
Mm-hmm.
But the Ravens didn't have Brandon Williams. They didn't have Calais Campbell. And they're just so damn scared of Derrick Henry beating you. You let Corey Davis and A.J. Brown beat you either way. So you've already done that, played that game, trying to keep Derrick Henry from beating you. He still beat you, and you let the receivers beat you. Now you get Calais Campbell back. Brandon Williams is back. In the offseason, the Ravens invested in, all these guys. Brandon Williams, Derek Wolfe, Calais Campbell. They draft Justin Madubuike. They draft Patrick Queen. They re-sign LJ Ford. They bring Judon back. They draft Malik Harrison. All these front seven guys. It's like, well, for the Ravens, it's time to put that to the test. Like, can you just trust your front seven to do what you need them to do? Because I understand when you got Broderick Washington and Justin Ellis, two backup level guys up there, you don't trust them, but they kind of held their own a little bit. 4.8 yards a carry is good, but it's not obliterating you like Henry did in the playoffs last year. And for me, it's just like, don't let A.J. Brown and Corey Davis beat you. Like, trust what you did in the offseason. Buy into that. Give Marlon Humphrey. Marcus Peters got fucking burned. He got torched. And, people say he had an ankle injury, but Corey Davis just is such a smooth and sudden separator at the same time. They start hitting you with those in-breaking routes, and you have to play outside leverage. You got no help over top. And then suddenly Corey Davis snaps back outside when you're jumping inside. Boom, 50-yard gain for Corey Davis in that game. Flips the field, gets Titans right back in the game. And there you go. I mean, it's just pick your poison. At this point, you've already drank the King's poison twice. So why don't we go the other way?
Yeah, the A.J. Brown was my guy, like, in that draft. And, like, I was perfectly fine.
He's that guy. He's that guy.
Yeah.
He's that dude.
Yeah, but that was the one dude that, like, even some people were gaga over DK Metcalf, and they obviously wound up taking a Brown that year, which, I liked the pick at the time. I'm still not totally down on Hollywood Brown, but I wanted A.J. Brown big time. And I think what he was doing at Ole Miss is translating even weirdly, like, better to the NFL, because I think he probably has better quarterback play, but didn't practice on Wednesday. Today's Thursday. Or no, he was limited on Wednesday. He didn't practice today, Thursday. As a Titans fan, what is the panic level if A.J. Brown cannot go in this game?
If he can't go, then I think my panic's already over. Like, if Friday, or if they, like, rule him out early, then it's like, okay, well, hey, hell of a season. Hopefully he can get healthy for next season, because I don't think they can beat him with just Corey Davis, or beat the Ravens with just Corey Davis. They don't have Adam Humphries. He's been out. They put him on.
They don't have anybody else who can be that quick dude underneath. He's the only type of receiver in that toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
Khalif Raymond is a burner. He is a separator underneath.
He's exactly what we saw from him in the playoff game last year. The 9 route right down the field and drop it right into the breadbasket. And Khalif Raymond may have had. I would be shocked if he had over 12 catches this year. Like, right. I'll look that up later. But he's nothing special. I think they used him perfectly in that game last year. But yeah, if A.J. Brown can't go, then I will definitely, I'll put my feet up and I'll say, all right, well, let's see how bad this gets, just because I don't think the offense will be able to hang with the Ravens then.
Ryan, so how badly do you want to keep Corey Davis in that case?
He's going to get paid. Like, someone is going to give him a bag. Like, people are saying the Ravens. Yeah, but, like, he would be perfect for the Ravens. That kind of, again, that type of receiver.
And he's a brick shithouse as a blocker.
We had the Ravens picked 17th that year, I think, and we had one of our guys, Matt Cohen, who used to write for us. He's at Indiana now. I think doing some stuff for their media, but he was so all over Corey Davis to the Ravens that year. The draft starts, he's like, all right, counting down until he falls to 17 and the Ravens take him, and then literally 5 picks and he's just off the board. And we were like, he was never. This was his first year where he just kind of. It's like, what do they always say, that the receivers in, like, the year 3 is when they explode? I guess it took him a little longer, but he's played, and he's had such a terrible year off the field too, with his brother dying of cancer a couple of weeks ago. And I know he had a rough game versus Houston last week, and then it came out after the game that it was his brother's birthday. And so, he's had a lot of emotions, the last couple months. But he's,
I mean, I'm happy for the guy. I want them to. Someone's going to overpay for him. That's a team like the Cardinals is going to make him is going to give him a lot of money, or just one of those random teams. So I'm
whoever has a shitty franchise and a lot of money.
Yeah, I was imagining like
Dolphins, that candy ass Miami Dolphins logo. It always makes me think after they overpaid for like Mike Wallace and all those guys. I always
Chambers and those guys. Yeah,
all the big name like wide receivers.
Or it'll be a team. It'll be like Jacksonville, because they have $100 million in cap space. They'll give him like 80. They'll give him like $100 million or 85 million. 85 million or something like that. I would love to keep him, but I don't think it's just not how the Titans operate. I wish now that obviously they would have picked up his 5th-year option. That would have been nice, but I think they at the time it was the right choice.
Yeah, I think so too. Last question on the offense here. Like Ryan Tannehill, I think is one of the most interesting like figures in the NFL right now. People kind of really don't talk about how crazy the story is that like he's basically like, dwindling away down in Miami and South Beach in the sun for however many years, going 8-8.
Borderline Rosen situation.
Yeah, like I mean, but he played like decently well, but like not well enough to like warrant the contract that they gave him. And then he had some stuff come out about how maybe he was like a little bit of a selfish guy, and I don't know like the veracity of all that stuff, and I don't want to totally comment on it. But then it winds up kind of getting humbled a little bit, sent up to Tennessee to be Mariota's backup. And then kind of doesn't really work like that. He, gets thrust into the lineup. He plays really well, like really well. People I don't think, again, are talking about how well he's playing. And for me, as an opposing fan and somebody that admittedly roots against the Titans here and there, I fear Ryan Tannehill in clutch situations. As a fan of him and his team, how do you feel about him in clutch situations?
I mean, I love him. There's been very few times where he's been in like a goal to go or just a big game situation, and he's just absolutely shit the bed. He's we're seeing the veteran in him, and again all this stuff that he learned from his situation in Miami, because like you were saying, he was a borderline like, this guy may not get another job. He can't get. He would have 3 good games and then he'd have 4 bad games, and
then he's hurt for a year,
and then he's hurt and he tears his ACL, and he always had those weird injuries. And like you said, when you're Marcus Mariota's backup, there's like a 70% chance you're going to start like 6 games that year. Because again, you talk about guys who get hurt, and I loved Mariota. I loved watching him play in that one Raiders game this year. But I mean, they probably signed him thinking like, hey man, there's a chance that you get extended looks this year, because there was the one year that Mariota in the opening game against the Dolphins got like undercut, comes down, hits his elbow on the turf or like a helmet or something. And the whole year was like, yeah, I just don't have feeling in my hands. It's like, oh, awesome. That's great, especially for a quarterback.
It was one of the last really good Flacco games was in 2018 when they went to Nashville and played them. And Mariota did not throw away
21-0.
Yeah, he got sacked like
11 times or something. Yeah, that was because he was wearing that glove where it only had the material on the pinky and the ring finger. And then I was like, what are we doing here? Like, and that's, Blaine Gabbert was the backup, and Castle and guys like that. So I think, them going out and getting, Tannehill, that was one of the best, moves by John Robinson ever. That's just a great move. And again, it worked out. He did a nice piece in, I think the Players Tribune, talking about, when I signed here, I didn't know what my career was going to be. And, I didn't know how long I was going to be here. And obviously now, just watching him throw the ball, like you said, with that, he has that veteran like mentality about him, obviously, and he's just I feel confident every time he throws the ball. Like the play to AJ Brown, the last 15 seconds of the Texans game, I was like, this is like going into I see it in there. I'm like, this is a completion. This is 100% a completion, and it was almost like the Joe Flacco where you could tell midway through, like, oh, Torrey's going to catch this. Like that's just. He's instilled that confidence in me, and I love watching him. And again, he's such a weapon. And I remember people laughed when in the offseason when they signed him and Henry to these deals, being like, oh, they gave Tannehill all this money to hand the ball off, and it's like, no, dude,
an affordable contract too, by the way. Like,
it's not terrible. Like there are worse contracts out there. Like
not even close to top of the market.
No, yeah, and. I don't know. I've loved watching him this year, and he's played so well. And that's, when all the stats were coming out, and his last 16 games started because I think he took over week 6 last year. Like he was neck and neck with Mahomes for yards and rating and touchdowns and all that stuff. So, I mean, I've been insanely impressed by him. I didn't expect anything when they signed him. I kind of thought, oh, same guy we were seeing in Miami. Yep, like hot wife, used to be wide receiver. I know that, and he's not very good. And he has shut everybody up. So I love him. I think he throws a hell of a ball too. And like you were saying earlier, Spencer, the windows that he puts balls in, and not only gets them in, where they're catches too. Like I can't believe I'm expecting half of these AJ Brown, the slants, just to bounce off his hands and die or get picked off or something like that. It's insane the percentage that he's completing in those tight windows, and AJ Brown catches it and is just gone. So
he doesn't get hit. He seems to hold the ball a little too long. Like the only knock I have is like he'll hold the ball to the point where it's like I don't give a shit if I'm going to get hit, and that ends up preventing him from being able to throw a tough ball.
Yep.
But if he gets it off before he is physically affected by pressure, on the fucking dot still so many times.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of shot. I feel like I see drops occasionally, like AJ Brown or something like running across her, and he'll drop the ball because he kind of like, holy shit, I didn't expect him to put it exactly where it's supposed to be.
Right on. Yeah, right on me. Yeah, he's again the windows that he can squeeze, the football into it. It's amazing. So now of course this is why I'm like, yeah, now I know why the Dolphins drafted him. Like I could see the potential that they saw in him, and I'm really happy for the guy because like you said, I know I think he got the shit end of the stick down in Miami, but it seems like people were like,
he was with the offensive mastermind that everyone thought was an absolute genius, and he must be so terrible if Adam Gase is not taking him into an all-pro level.
Exactly. And I know Big Cat always talks on Part of My Take about he wants, like, he keeps saying, like, I want Trubisky to have his Tannehill where, like, maybe he gets out from Nagy and he goes to a place where he can play
Sounds
well.
Like
but
he's going right back to Chicago on a big money deal. So we're going to see if Big Cat likes that.
They literally started doing with Trubisky what Arthur Smith has done with Tannehill. Roll him out, use his athleticism, put the receiver in front of his fucking eyes, and let him try and be accurate without having.
For me, that's what it is with Tannehill right now. It's every time you get into 3rd and 2, 4th and 1, and it's every time they just crowd Derrick Henry because of course you have to do that, and then he just pulls it out, runs it in for a touchdown.
He also trusts, like he understands AJ Brown is a wide receiver 1. Like if he gets a remotely favorable matchup, if he's in the slot against the mid-level nickel or God forbid a linebacker, like I watched like 4 Titans games. Somehow there's at least one snap a game where someone's like, oh yeah, we'll stick the fucking linebacker over AJ Brown in the slot. The ball's out as soon as it hits his hands. It's AJ Brown on a quick out, AJ Brown on a quick in, a hitch, whatever, and it's 16 yards, him running after the catch. Like he understands his guys on 3rd down. I'm gonna go target AJ Brown. I'm gonna go target those guys. And if like what's the fucking Ferkser? If Ferkser has 10 yards off and they're not looking at him then and everybody's crowding AJ Brown, the ball just goes in the right place, long story short. Like he simplifies things. It feels like he makes it easy. And especially against that single high stuff, he just makes it easy for himself.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed that. Like you said, like I think the Bears game, was the one game where I think Brown had a long catch down the sideline where he was matched up against like Danny Trevathan or something like that. And it's like, yeah, like Tannehill knew before the snap, like, all right, this ball is going deep to him because again, if you put a linebacker on him, you're absolutely toast, and your defensive coordinator should probably be fired just right there on the spot.
Definitely. So speaking of defense, like switching over to that side of the ball. So this defense, you've kind of touched on it a little bit already. 29th in DVOA. They're in a rough spot. Like, is there a moment that you recall like sitting there and being like, okay, something's wrong with this defense? Because I think the presumption was they signed Clowney, they bring a lot of guys back. It feels like they were going to be a strong defense again. What's kind of the deal here, do you think?
And they paid Vic Beasley, who they ended up cutting during the year. I don't think he didn't. I think he may have had a quarterback hit or a hurry, may have. So he earned that $9 million or whatever it was. I think the moment that I kind of realized that defense was going to be a problem was, I mean, do you want me to say the opening Monday night game against Denver when Drew Lock was taking him up and down the field? No, I mean and again, it was weird because they didn't. The big thing this year was like they're going into it without a defensive coordinator. Dean Pease came back last year and retired. And Vrabel kind of just said, we got it. We'll take it from here. And that's it hasn't worked out because, like you said, they're 29th and they're literally bottom 3 in a lot of defensive categories. And I said on the podcast last night, I said, yeah, they're 29th in DVOA, but it's I think they're still second in the division because I think the 2 teams below them are the Jags and the Texans. So that's a spin zone that I've been pulling out.
Hell yeah.
But I mean, they literally they cannot get pressure on the quarterback, and they can't get sacks. And I know people have been saying like, well, no one can sack Lamar Jackson. It's like, well, that's not even a thing. It's like they can't get pressure back there. They can't. And I don't know what it is. I mean, it's hard for me to be like, well, just taking Dean Pease out of the building, like just sap them of all that defensive talent that they had last year. And yeah, they lost Jarrell Casey and Wesley Woodyard and a couple other veterans from last year. But it's just, I think they went like 7 or 8 weeks in the season, and they had 1 sack the entire stretch. It's just, I mean, they're very, very bad on defense, and the third down defense is like historically bad. I think they're like the first defense since 1991 or something like that to like allow 50% conversion or more on third down. They're just, I mean, teams feast on third down against this team, and it's been that way the entire year. And that's my big worry with the Ravens is like, yeah, I mean, they're never afraid to go for it on fourth down. So like they're just, I have a feeling, and I said going into the game this, when the Titans were still, whether they lost and were going to go to Buffalo or whether they were going to play the Ravens, I said whichever quarterback they're getting is going to absolutely just pick this defense apart. I think the run defense is decent, but the pass defense has just been very bad. And I mean, Malcolm Butler, I think, was their leading tackler in the season. And it's like, if your cornerback is the top tackler, it's never a good thing. So it's been a terrible year for them. If they had any sense of a defense like it, then they would just then I would feel more confident. But the way that they're giving up passing touchdowns, I think they give up 36 passing touchdowns. It's like the tied for the most ever for a team going into the playoffs. So we'll see if the Ravens will again attack that pass defense, knowing that, I mean, coming off a 400 rushing yard game against the Bengals, it'll be interesting to see if they do stick with the run game or if they try and attack this just putrid pass defense.
Right, and it feels like a weakness on weakness, because you mentioned Malcolm Butler's leading tackler. The reason you don't want your cornerback being the leading tackler is because they're getting fucking beat and then having to make tackles. And so often Malcolm Butler is getting beat. I think they had Adoree Jackson missed most of the season.
13, 14 games. It was to a point where I'm like, why are we doing this?
That's even worse.
Yeah. It was I think the Packers game may have been his second game. So I think who they play before the I forget who it was, but he's legitimately played 2 or 3 games this year. Like I remember them saying, I think they were like,
I was writing in a little preview series I was doing that he was maybe going to be active for the first time this year against the Ravens, and he wasn't. I guess not. Dude, I thought that guy was going to be so fucking sick. Like
he's pretty good. He's not. He's like last year,
like throwing him in as like a wide receiver and stuff. They were doing that at USC. Like, he was a fun player, I thought.
Yeah, he's just been banged up.
So who's like outside of him, like, and the poor overall ratings, of course, who are some other kind of players that you think on this defense that we would need to watch out for?
I think it's the big guy in the middle, and I know Ravens fans don't like him because of the Marshall Yanda stuff last year, and Yanda saying he spit on him. But Jeffrey Simmons is, I said on our pod last night, I'm getting like Albert Hainsworth vibes from him, where he's like, he's there, he's in the middle, he's going to affect the game. He's going to get a tip ball. He's good, and he's good for a couple sacks every now and then. But I think Jeffrey Simmons is an absolute game wrecker, and he had the fumble. I think he had the forced fumble last year against Lamar when in the playoffs when Lamar stepped up into the pot. I think he spun
clutch,
out. He
double clutch.
Clutch. He like stepped up, and he kept like and Simmons came up and chopped it. He's a hell of a player, and he's just a monster. So I think he has some Hainsworth in him where he's like he can change a game, and he's almost like a JV version of Calais Campbell because he's not that big. Obviously, Calais doesn't even have to jump to get these, his hands on these footballs. But Simmons can change a game pretty quick, and he has a knack for getting a ball out. So I think he's one of the guys, like you said earlier. Rashaan Evans is just a tackling machine. Like that guy was literally put on this earth to tackle the person who's holding
He
the
would
football.
be the number one linebacker in the NFL. Like he would be a top 5 linebacker in 1997.
Oh my God. He would
great 2-down linebacker.
He's awesome. And he's so much fun to watch. And he's kind of a knucklehead though. He'll get those boneheaded, unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. He'll get a good taunting.
That's their MO though. They like that shit. They live off that shit. And
I think it's Vrabel. It's from Vrabel. And I think
like the Ravens have been like the whole jumping on the fucking sideline shit mixed with Marshall Yanda complaining about getting spit on is like kind of making the Ravens look SAWFT soft because the Titans are coming to Baltimore, spitting in their faces.
I make no comments or judgments about spitting at or on player situations. That's not something I concern myself with. So we don't even have to talk about that.
But they just have that MO. They're badasses. They play like it. Like Kenny Vaccaro fucking hits. Like he'll miss some tackles, but he comes up in the box. He hits like a linebacker.
I always forget he's there. He was sick in New Orleans.
Yeah, he was. That's why. I mean, that was another. I love that signing when they brought him in. He had that nice pick last year. That kind of. I don't want to say sealed the deal, but he had that pick late in the mid third, late third.
I think late third.
Yeah,
that was the one. I'd probably drink like 13 beers out of a bucket in this really crowded bar. I forget where we even went, and just cried into the bucket. And
I think I finished
Arby's the next day because I was just so hungover and sad.
I almost finished a bottle of Pink Whitney. That night, I definitely finished a bottle of Pink Whitney during the New England game last year. The second the New England game was over, I remember falling flat on my couch and just waking up like at 4:00 in the morning, being like, "What the hell just happened to me?"
And you got the cold sweats going.
Oh yeah,
you're happy because it was a win. It's a lot different. Wake up if it's a loss, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but again, like Vaccaro he's a hell of a player. Amani Hooker's made some plays. I think he's the one who had the pick on the game in November when Lamar just kind of chucked it up there. I think it was him.
Him and Duvernay, yeah.
He's played pretty well. Again, on like this is, I'm sure the defense is good on Madden. I don't play the game. I don't know if you guys are Madden guys, but I don't play the game because it's trash now. But I'm sure in Madden it's a damn good defense because they have the names. Like again, they had Clowney. Clowney didn't do anything. They have names on paper. It looks like it should be good.
Landry is an effective pass rusher. Like
he had double-digit sacks last year.
They just can't. It's just weakness on weakness. They run a ton of zone. I don't understand it fully because they have Kevin Byard, who is a ball hawk middle safe, like free safety. He can play single high. You can fuck around with that stuff. And Kevin Byard, they end up playing this soft zone. And it just leaves guys open, quick passes. Like I went and watched the Bengals game. I was just looking at the Titans schedule this week, and I was like, what the hell happens here? The Bengals beat the Titans by 11 points. How does that happen? And it's because the Titans play so soft, and they're so focused on winning between the numbers, between the hashes. They just let you pick them apart in the quick passing game over and over and over and over. And then they start to creep up, boom, get hit over their heads. Then they don't know what the hell's happening. Their zone coverage starts getting fucked up. They're passing the wrong guy off. Malcolm Butler's like squatting on a route, and someone just runs right by him, but he doesn't even care. And it's strength on strength. The Titans want to dominate up the spine. They like Rashaan Evans. They like Jeffrey Simmons. They like Kevin Byard. And on the outside, you're kind of, inept. But the Ravens' perimeter passing game is a work in progress. It is not good. It is one of the worst in the NFL. They don't target there. They don't run, comebacks. They're not targeting concepts where Lamar's throwing and driving the ball to the sideline consistently. I watched Deshaun Watson as well last week, and Watson's scorning them, throwing to Brandon Cooks these stop routes and these double stops and stuff because he's driving the ball so hard to the sideline. And Lamar doesn't drive the ball like that. He doesn't have that kind of velocity. He's a touch passer, and he obviously prefers to throw over the middle of the field. So it's like strength on strength, weakness on weakness, and I think that's why the Titans match up so well with the Ravens as opposed to a lot of other teams.
And
obviously, go ahead.
I was going to say, I remember watching. That's why Dez had a decent game in November because Malcolm Butler's 12 yards off him.
So you just threw him the fucking ball.
I was waiting for that to happen, and Butler's done that for years. I don't know if he did in New England, but ever since he's been in Tennessee, he's 9 yards off. He's 10 yards off. I don't understand why, and I know it happens all the time. But hell, if they got a run play called, just you get it out to him and you pitch it, and that's what they started doing with Dez, and he was getting 10, 11, 14 yards, and it's like, okay, now we're moving, and it's like, and then again when he does creep up, then they go deep. But again, Butler, that's been the most frustrating thing with him is I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you're 15 yards away from him right now. Like, it's 2nd and 7. Like, do something. But yeah, so it'll be interesting again because I'm sure Malcolm Butler's going to do the same thing. And again, I mean, the book's out on the defense. It doesn't take much, but
yeah. So obviously, so 2-0 against Lamar. You just touched on Deshaun Watson there, Spenny. What is kind of in your experience watching them take on like mobile quarterbacks, what is kind of the success level that they've had, and like, can you pinpoint why, if at all?
I mean, it's tough because like Watson has always played well against the Titans, and it could be because he's just one of the best quarterbacks in football right now. And I'll go on the record and say this: I would be devastated. It would be a real shame if the Texans were to trade him because of how unhappy he is. I mean, personally, I would hate to see them get rid of their 2 best offensive players in 2 back-to-back off seasons. So,
they would be tough. That team wouldn't be in your division. They get relegated. They're out. They are sold. Gates closed. Houston, you fucked it up again.
Yep.
Done.
We're taking
nobody loves Deshaun more than me. Like, unironically, but like, watching people on Twitter stopping white knighting for him would be, that would be a little bit of a pep in my step if that were to finally take place.
That's the other big cat, the protect Deshaun Watson at all costs.
Yeah, like I think I noticed that before you even mentioned it. Then I was like, yeah, we're simpatico on that because it's I don't know.
Like, yeah, we get it, guys. Yeah, you don't want to see him get killed. Yeah, we know.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I mean, again, maybe it's just that zone that they play, and it just lets the quarterbacks run free. I know Lamar had a hell of a running game last year against them in the playoffs. But again, it's like the mobile quarterbacks, like mostly just because I see them against Watson twice a year. They can never seem to kind of, he'll get his chunk yard plays. And again, Lamar, I'm sure Lamar he'll have a run over 25, 30, 40 yards. There's just nothing they can do again. I mean, if they clog up the middle with Simmons and those guys, then yeah, hopefully that stops them. But again, if they're not back there in the backfield to get him, to be able to rush him, then I think Lamar is going to be able to pick them apart. I don't know what it is. They can't seem to stop these guys and the rushing attack, and it's pretty pathetic, I guess, because again, you're playing against Deshaun Watson twice a year, so you'd think, and again, Vrabel being in that building, I don't think he was there when Watson was, so maybe that may not have anything to do with it, but I don't know. Again, they've just always seems to have a problem with stopping Deshaun Watson mainly, but these rushing quarterbacks.
Definitely. And this Ravens offense, I mean, yeah, I would assume you've been following the Ravens a little more closely this year for Exit 52, kind of closer than you ever have, at least. You've kind of seen the full scope of their season in the same way that we have. And we're a lot more confident in the offense right now than I think we were 6 weeks ago. So over the past 5 weeks, what has sort of been your takeaway from watching this Ravens offense, and kind of what is your thought on how you would try to stop it if you were the Titans defense? I know you obviously have some misgivings with it, and Spencer, I want to get your take on that as well, but kind of just like surface level, like what you think the Titans are going to try to do.
I mean, I think they'd be smart to just, hey, Vrabel, open up the folder from last year on the computer, that game plan from the playoff game, and let's run that back, because it seemed to work. And Lamar got his 500 yards, but again, I mean, they did get lucky with the turnovers and the stopping them on 4th down, which was still bizarre to me that they had Lamar under center for both of those when they stopped them. But I mean, again, I'm fully, if you stop Lamar rushing the ball and you limit, I think Gus Edwards had 3 carries in the game in November. He's obviously hitting his stride now. J.K. Dobbins is he's probably, I mean, what's he, a top 8 running back in the last 5 or 6 weeks? He's played really, really well, and that's terrifying because, and I said the other night, I don't know if we were on the podcast or not, but they're like the Gus and JK kind of remind me of a smash and dash, the Chris Johnson, Lendale White. Like Gus Edwards is going to run through you. Like, he has zero problem doing that, and he's fast enough to run by you. And then you just have J.K. Dobbins, who is just picking up steam. And it's like, for weeks and weeks and weeks, people were like, we got to get him more carries. We got to get him more carries. Why isn't he more involved? And then the last 5 or 6 weeks, it's like, oh, okay, now he has fresh legs. His gas tank is full. And he's an insane running back. It's exactly who they thought they were drafting. And then again, you just throw Lamar into that mix, and it's just so goddamn terrifying. So I think again, like, this goes back to it. Like, if you limit them, if you hold them to 100 170 yards between the three, which is as terrifying as that sounds and how scary that sounds. I think you'd have a decent shot at winning if you're the Titans. And if Lamar beats him with his arm, and again, I feel like that's the book on Lamar. Like, I'll let Lamar. I think in the what was he, 31 for 54 in the playoff game or something like that. Like, I'd give Lamar 54 passing attempts every time. I think that's what we saw in the Bengals game last week. What was he, like 13 for 18 or something like that? Like, those are the games that he wins. Those are the you don't want your quarterback throwing 55.
You'd rather have Steph Curry drive to the lane and lay the ball up than shoot a three. Like, take away what he does best. Yeah.
Exactly. So if they do that, if they come out on Sunday and Lamar has 12 rushes for 65 yards, JK has 15 rushes for 70 yards, and Gus has 12 carries for 50 yards, like, I'd be like, okay. And if they limit him there and Lamar has 300 yards passing, it's like, well, tip your cap. They ate this defense alive, and I can live with that. But if they're running wild on them, like it's Cincinnati again, that's going to be hard to swallow. But yeah, I think their game plan, you got to stop the run. And as cliche as that sounds, like, stop the run, and keep the ball out of their hand. That's another thing. If they can just keep the ball out of their hand,
you're getting into dad territory with this, which I like. You got to run the ball and stop the run.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you can do that, I mean, if Derrick Henry has over 25 or 30 carries, if he's hovering around 30, then I think that's almost like a defensive, stop for you, because it keeps the ball out of their hands.
Right, and of course that kind of coincides. Like, you want the Titans to score early. They have done that the past two matchups. Titans scored a opening drive touchdown. They get the monster PI on Marlon Humphrey, like 39 yards immediately. Then they just kind of dink and dunk their way down the field a little bit. They're able to manufacture a touchdown in the red zone. And, the Ravens end up taking a lead in that game, ultimately going up by 11 at one point, but that's what you want to do. And in the playoff game, they're able to, get a stop just because it turned out that way. They get a pick off a tip pass. They're opportunistic, return it. Lamar adds 15 onto it. You punch the ball in, then you get another stop. Then you hit Khalif Raymond 50 yards down the field. Suddenly, the Ravens are fucking panicking, and they are pressured. And a lot of people want to be like, oh, the Ravens got away from running the ball in that game, but there just wasn't they could have ran the ball like 5 more times. Like, they were getting stuffed when they ran the ball on first down. It was 2nd and 9. Like, all right, you want to run the ball again? If you're stuffed again, then your passing game shaky.
Then we're 3rd and 7, and we're looking at.
You dropped 5 passes in the game. You can't convert on 2 4th downs. You didn't kick field goals, and you love to go for it on 4th down, but everybody, like all the Baltimore, everybody in Dundalk is like, oh, stop going for it on 4th down. This is the fucking playoffs, man. Like it's different. You're little, like, stop wearing a mask, like, in the playoffs, like.
Stop going to them damn analytics, dude. You got to get Joe Flacco back off the bench.
Throw them computers out, hon.
Fucking blacked out. Like, they fucking hated it. And
take your bullshit down the road.
More times, but at the same time, it's like, they tried to quarterback sneak on 4th and 1 at like the 50 and couldn't get it. Mm-hmm. Lamar's running around like a fucking caged fox for.
That was so weird when he cut to the right and then like immediately came back to the left.
After he cut, it was there, and he's just like, whoop, whoop, whoop.
Yeah, that was
pixie. That was like.
That was just, to me, that was emblematic of the whole game, him being indecisive on that play, because that whole game
he felt the pressure. He felt
them being indecisive, feeling the pressure, and just not hitting the hole. Like, that's all you had to do.
I'll randomly think about that play maybe once a week, just like I see him jet to the right every time, and I'm like, oh, he's gonna go, and then like he just cuts back, and I always replay it.
In a way, if you're not a Ravens fan, it just looked fun, kind of, because he was moving so quickly but gaining no ground. It was just like so strange. But they pressed, and Mike Vrabel pretty much said it. He was like, we can't defend this type of ground game if they have an advanced passing attack. Basically saying they didn't have an advanced passing attack. They were willing to try and shut down the middle of the field. They were willing to come downhill, fill the A-gaps, all that kind of stuff. And like you mentioned, Eric, they start throwing the smokes, the alerts to Des Bryant. And that's what you have to do to beat the Titans. And the thing that sticks out to me is like RPO passes, the Titans can't defend. Their linebackers are like 4-year-olds. When you play the Chiefs or the Bengals or what was the other one I watched? The Texans. They run these quick RPOs. the linebackers are like, "What's happening?"
It's like they've never seen it. It's like if you took a football player from the 1940s and put him in football now, they'd be. It's a semi-pro. The like when they throw the alley-oop and he's like, foul,
illegal.
2 fouls. I don't know what happened. He's flying through the air. Yeah, that's literally what it is. It's like they've never seen it and they don't know how to react. And again,
it's the ones
Watson
that
did it the entire second half.
Attack the perimeter. The corners just don't have any clue what's happening. The linebackers just like sit still, like I hope nobody sees me. Like they don't do anything. And then
that's what I do on this podcast. I just try to hide and like let you guys go. Nobody sees me.
Yeah.
And so it's like, the Ravens have started to attack outside more. They're feeling more comfortable. Lamar fucking shits his pants, gets COVID. Now he's all loosey-goosey, like having a good time.
That was actually in reverse order there. He got COVID, then came back, then shit his pants, then threw a touchdown pass.
And now he's all loosey-goosey. And yeah, it's attacking downfield, like shit like you see in the Bengals game this past weekend. The Titans are going to take Mark Andrews away over the middle of the field. They're going to fucking triple him. They're going to have a linebacker underneath, a safety's going to jump him, and someone else is going to have their eyes on him. So are you going to try to force feed the ball to Mark Andrews because they're going to take him away, or are you going to trust Miles Boykin to go run one-on-one and beat somebody and throw a 43-yard touchdown? Like, you want to take Mark Andrews away, like you say, Eric, just do what you did last year and make the Ravens prove that they have advanced. And have they? You think so, but you play the Browns defense without a couple guys, like their secondary fucking sucks. You play these crappy teams. The Giants defense is all right, but they're not, an elite unit, and they're not a playoff caliber football team. They won 6 games this year. So you feel confident right now, but can you go execute against a playoff caliber team? And that's the question.
So I guess we can distill it down to this, RDT, for you specifically. Last question before we get into predictions and then listener questions. Lamar, all of the big game and playoff boogeymen that he deals with, you've been pretty deferential, on Twitter and on your pod and everything. What is kind of your level of fear facing off against him in a spot like this?
Oh, I'm terrified. Like, I mean, I thought Lamar was going to go off because they were coming off some rough. The Ravens were right in the middle of that, or like I guess it was kind of the start of that.
It's the beginning of it. Yeah, they got the COVID in that game, I think.
And it was like, but it was that was the whole Banks hate month where it was it Colts,
that one
Patriots,
really...
Steelers, Titans, Steelers, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, they were. I was like, man, like just law of averages, Lamar is due for a bounce back game. He's going to play really well. I mean, he's terrifying to have to game plan for, and just to watch him like back there in the pocket, especially, it looks like he's just coated in grease before the game because you never get a clean tackle on him. I mean, it's absolutely terrifying watching him back there in the pocket. Huh? What was it?
Are you alleging something?
No, it's just like he's so slippery. Like you can't get him down. Maybe
stick him on his hands.
Yeah, maybe he does. Like maybe Bradley Bozeman wipes him down with something.
The Matthew McConaughey when they did the Football Life for Texas Rose Bowl in 2006, and he was like, "Yeah, I had one of my USC buddies was like, I heard Vince put some grease on his legs before the game, and I was like, you had to touch him to tackle him."
Like I
always think of that, like whenever that kind of stuff comes.
Now we're on to something. I think we can figure some of that stuff out. But I mean, my level, especially after hearing his comments. What was it, Wednesday or Tuesday? His press conference. I was like, Jesus Christ! Like he's gonna go off. Like, and I love him. Like I legitimately like Lamar Jackson a lot. And it's just like he's like off the field. He's like the picture perfect athlete. It's like exactly what you would want. And he says all the right things and he does all the right things.
He always takes responsibility. He always
absolutely.
It's my fault. I have to be better. I have to work harder. Always.
I feel like he's a ticking time bomb because, like, again, he's certainly now he's fed up because, like, last year there was the like it wasn't Lamar hasn't won a playoff game. It was Lamar didn't win that playoff game, like against the Chargers. And it's like, yeah, well, that was his 10th start or whatever. Like,
yeah, with like an offense that was poorly assembled for Joe fucking Flacco to begin with. So like that.
Yeah,
what do you mean? Michael Crabtree was playing at a Hall of Fame level at that point.
Yeah,
and he was also he had like just turned 19 or something. Like I think he had just had his like 16th birthday party.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
he obviously still young. Happy birthday, Lamar, today, I think, by the way. But
yeah.
I mean, he's terrifying. I feel like he's going to absolutely blow up, and it's going to have a nice, decent coming out party, I think. And I mean, I don't. It's not even like the monkey is off his back because it's insane that we're talking about like God can't win a playoff game. It's like he's two games. Like it's 2 games. Like chill out.
Josh Allen is 0-1 in the playoffs. Was throwing balls over his head last time.
he was throwing flies to a fullback, like a bomb to a fullback.
It totally pisses me off, but it's also just like what happens, and especially a guy like him who's going to be polarizing for a lot of different reasons. It's like it's going to happen. So you kind of just want to see him do it. But I guess in respect to that, let's jump into prediction time. Eric, I guess we'll start with you, buddy. I think I already heard your prediction from this day. I don't know if you're sticking with that or like what you want to do here, but what is your prediction for Sunday's game?
No, I mean, I make my prediction. I stick to it. I think if both teams play their best game, I think it's 38-28 Ravens. I think it's a nice, comfortable, I feel like Ravens will get out early. I feel like they may let the gas off their foot off the gas pedal and Titans not crawl back, but get it within striking distance. And I think it's 10 point Ravens win.
Jake, you always go before me. You know that.
I do, yeah.
Okay. I'm not ready.
Yeah, I think it's time. It's time. Titans defense is playing poorly. I think the offense is going to hang in it. It's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a hard-fought slugfest of a game. Ollie Foreman type deal. I'm going to go Ravens. Feeling weird score, big weird score guy. I'm going to go Ravens 25, Titans 23.
Tucker time. Tucker time.
Right, yeah, Tucker time. I've been doing the. Every week is supposed to be Justin Tucker's moment. Then I finally hit it with the Browns game, and I'm just rolling. So I'm going to go with a little Justin Tucker situation. And we are going to talk about some game-winning field goals in games past with one of these listener questions. So it's in spirit of that. Let's go.
The Ravens, Calais Campbell and Brandon Williams are even talking about it this week. They're like, well, you didn't have us last time. And it's like, all right, well, you had Marlon Humphrey, you had Marcus Peters, you had Chuck Clark, you had Patrick Queen. The 4 of those motherfuckers couldn't tackle A.J. Brown. And they're at the point now where I mentioned this stuff where, when they played too high, it worked. Tannehill's 4 of 8, 39 yards against too high. Henry didn't ever run 10 yards against too high. Too high worked against them. And you're getting these guys back, so you don't need that safety in the box. The definition of insanity, blah, 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 blah. Everybody knows that, Albert Einstein. You are a fucking moron if you do that again. I think that they finally are able to relatively stop the Titans off from consecutively scoring touchdowns at some point in this game on back-to-back drives. Ravens offense knows that they have to fucking throw the ball a little bit. I'm going to go. I'm nervous about it still because the Titans offense truly is so good, even if you do everything. But I'm going to go. I picked it in the preseason. I had the Ravens as the 3 seed and the Titans as the 6 seed. I picked a win, so I'm going to go Ravens 26, Titans 18. Weird scores. I
was gonna say some odd scores there.
We always like.
We love the weird scores. We almost on them, but yeah,
for a long time, you guys 31-17, 16-13, like, and then it was always like 25, 22 and a half. So
it's always like the Seahawks always get in those games where it's like they get like 2 field goals, they have like 8, and you're like, oh, they scored touchdown 2-point conversions. Like, no, they had 2 field goals and a safety. It's weird. Yeah. Like they always get in those weird games.
I did sniff out that Browns game that was going to be a shootout though. That was a good one. But yeah, so there we go for our game preview and our predictions. We do have some listener questions if you guys are ready to jump in.
Let's do it.
First one coming from our boy Stuart Schock across the pond. This is an interesting one. I feel like we can all kind of bring a unique perspective here. So how would you rank the 4 previous Titans versus Ravens playoff games in terms of quality of play and your own overall enjoyment of it? So I'll start with this one. 08 is the first one that I really remember, CJ2K and Flacco's rookie year. So I'm going to go with that one because that's a win, game-winning field goal, Matt Stover at the end. I'm not going to rank any of the other losses, but those are like, I remember 19 obviously the most. So I'm going to go 2 with obviously 2000. Rewatching the America's Game documentary, you get a ton of stuff on that. I did that recently. So that's awesome. That's going to be number 2. Number 3, we rewatched the 2003 game for the podcast in like peak COVID when we were looking for stuff to do for an episode. That was a fun game. That
was a really fun game.
It was cool. It was a cool rewatch. So that's going to be number 3 for me. And then obviously 2019, the absolute lowest point of my existence in the year 2020. Well, that's probably not true. 2020 was tough, but just a very tough scene. And number 4 for your boy.
It's going to be too much pain. You just go ahead, Eric. You go ahead. You rank out all these dubs you've taken.
You're gonna have the same.
I mean,
I know. So it.
my number one has to be last year. Like it was, I went into that game much like this year, being like, well, Titans had a good year. You know, they probably, if they win another game or two, they probably could have avoided these guys. Oh well, they're a wagon, and just the way. I mean, I literally thought the Ravens were going to win that game until there were zeros on the clock. I was like, if there's a way that Lamar can come back, he's going to come back in this game, and it just never did. But I mean, obviously, as people have known, I have been known to post the Derrick Henry Earl Thomas gif a time or two. Maybe I edited it with my face on Derrick Henry and my friend Tyler's face on Earl Thomas. I can't confirm or deny
almost
that.
like you guys were brothers that were in the same bed together.
Yeah, getting caught. By the way, do you guys have The Athletic? Did you read the Earl Thomas?
I have it. I haven't read it yet.
I read it today. It's actually it's really interesting. I would definitely check it out if you're a Ravens fan or if you just don't like Earl Thomas.
We're both.
We're both. Yeah. So that's got to be my number one. And again, I think number two just has to be the 03 game because, I mean, Gary Anderson and that single bar face mask.
Oh my god!
He looked like one of the lollipop kids from The Wizard of Oz. Like I'll never forget because I think it was a 43-yard field goal. Like I remember Justin McCarron's had a big game. That was the game that Eddie George kind of got Ray Lewis back with the stiff arm on the sideline, which that fired everyone up. Like I remember I printed out a picture of that. I put it on my binder and
then Eddie faked an injury on his arm or something like that.
No, he dislocated his shoulder. It's the Warrior.
That was the absolute revenge for Eddie George. That was like the galvanizing moment of his career.
If you haven't done it recently, you have to go back and watch that game. It is the commentator is so funny. Like it's
Mike Patrick and who else was it? I forget. Mike Patrick was good though. Like I think it was a Saturday night game.
Theismann was on there, and he lights into Orlando Brown Sr. He calls him like stupid, like on air, like shit that you could not do today. Like it was jarring to watch. It was so funny.
He's like drinking Crown Royal, just talking shit.
Yeah, you can hear the ice like clinking in his glass.
Yeah,
it was a burp out. He's like, bruh.
Yeah, I mean, that game coming down to the wire. Like I remember, did he have the touchdown late in the fourth to tie for the Ravens?
Yeah. Anthony Wright just chucked one off.
Yeah, Anthony Wright, like deep right end zone. I just remember being crushed. And then again, Gary Anderson like waddling out for the game, like for the field goal.
McAllister picked a pass off right after that. Like they just chucked one up, and McAllister.
Yeah, McNair. Yep.
And it's like they're gonna win. And I was rewatching it, not even remembering the results. I was like, oh fuck yeah! Like, and we were going in to do the pod and everything. I was like, oh, this is gonna be fun to talk about. Then Gary Anderson. It's like, oh yeah, now I remember this.
It was like a 43-yard field goal. I think if it was like 43 and like 2/3, he wouldn't have made it. Like he barely snuck that thing over. And again, he did the little like run and like fist pump jumping in the air. Yeah, that was always just classic. Number three, it's hard because like 2000, that's like right when I started watching football. That was the year that I got into the Titans. And like, I told a story on the podcast all the time. Like I remember, I mean, I was 11 years old at the time, so it's not like I could be like, my parents were like, hey, we're going to go run errands. And I couldn't be like, I'm staying home to watch the Titans game. My dad would have been like, you're fucking 11, shut up. Like, get in the car. And I remember watching the blocked field goal at a Best Buy, and they had a wall of 15, like 80-inch TVs, and all I could see is it over and over and over and over. And I was like, this is like hell. This is terrible.
That's
like,
literally a living nightmare.
Yeah,
it's like the weird little things you grasp onto that like you remember from these things. Like that's kind of. I remember you told this story last time too. Like that's just kind of a funny thing to like kind of latch onto. Like
absolutely.
In a Best Buy, surrounded in misery by like.
Yeah, it was god awful, and so that's probably three, and then four is probably the 07 game. First night I ever blacked out. I don't know if I said that on the podcast last time. That was after that game. Number one, because, and I like Ed Reed a lot, and I loved him as a player. I thought the hit on Chris Johnson was filthy dirty. He had the banged up ankle, and they got him low, and he was down, and Ed Reed came and just tried to fold him back. Like he tried to make Chris Johnson's helmet touch his butthole and like just absolutely wrecked him. And so he was out for that game or for the rest of it. Todd Heath catching that pass late in the fourth when the play clock was on double zeros for like a second and a half. I'll never forget that. And then they trotted out Stover. First night I ever blacked out. So I think that was a pretty good way to celebrate that game. So
which game was the Will Demp's interception?
That was 03.
That was 03?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, pick six.
That was a traumatizing game. I remember watching that at a Bateman's with all my older brother and all his friends. I think I was like 10 years old, and they're all like hammered, like they fucking got it, like Will Demp's, fuck yeah. That was the Anderson game, yeah.
Bateman's game day atmosphere, man.
Dude, I watched the Tebow game at the Bateman's in Towson.
Yeah, we got one
Tebow
right
playoff
on the
game.
corner in Reisterstown. I don't think it's still there though. Who knows? Next one, Calvin. I don't know how specific we have to get on this one, but he says rank the top 5 most annoying team fan bases on Twitter leading up to a Ravens matchup against them. Titans
I'll immediately go. It goes number 1, Chiefs, number 2, Browns, number 3, Steelers, number 4, Patriots, and number 5, yours truly, the Tennessee Titans.
I knew you were gonna have an answer right away because you like to get in the mud a little bit with some.
Are the Titans that bad on?
trenches.
Are their fans that bad on Twitter?
So like some of the ones I've seen, and like I'm not like necessarily above the fray on this stuff, but it just annoys me, and it gets my blood pressure going, so I try to stay out of it. But like there were people going back and forth on like the team's criminal record and stuff.
Oh, that's low hanging fruit for everyone. Like,
yeah, I mean, like any fan base can do that. So I'm just like, I don't care. For me, I fucking hate Chiefs fans that just crawled out of
They're a lot like they're not the little shitheads anymore because they won a Super Bowl and it's been a little while.
Yeah. They're a little better.
Not like aggressively cunty about it anymore. So they're kind of simmering back down. And the Browns, after the Ravens swept them, really shut the fuck up.
I was gonna say, I think Brown, like me on the outside looking in, I would have said Browns number 1, like easy, especially because it's like you guys are like locusts. You come out of hiding every 17 years, like you're trash.
The Browns games were $1 2 years ago. Like shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I saw you come back with that. I thought that was a good one. Yeah, Brownies are bad. Steelers are smug, but like Ravens fans are too a little bit, so it's kind of like similar. Like Steelers,
they do that meme to be like "fuck you, Browns, shut up." Like
exactly.
Ravens and the Steelers have Big Brother over the Browns, who got almost.
That's like a hey, the adults are talking like that. That's what you need a meme, or like you need to find a video or something. Be like, hey, stay over at the kids' table. The
I've been
adults
getting deep into the pinning heads on the things game, so maybe I'll find some and like do that. But next one, Wookie Nookies. Not a question, but a statement. Lamar gonna cramp all over those Titans. I think he means poop, is what he's saying.
Oh, okay. That was a poop joke. Yeah.
And then he follows up. He tried to keep it PG. So
there we go.
Shout out to him.
I'd appreciate it if you thanked him for keeping it PG.
Yeah, thank you for your service, Wookie Nookie.
Great listener of the show. Shane.
I thought you were saying Wookie Nookie was the statement, and I was like, all right, let's.
That's how he starts off. That's how he starts off all his tweets.
Yeah, no, he's a great listener of the show. Shane Spicer. When Elliott bodies Henry for the second time on Sunday, what colored jersey should I order? You know, the whole like Deshaun Elliott hit thing, like it was sick in the moment, and like it's great to like highlight to look back on, but like with the fourth quarter and overtime that Henry had, I'm just really not going to be gloating too hard on that.
So I had 4 different responses typed out to that guy. Because I would, and then I deleted every one because like I was like, I'm just trying to, we'll do some good karma. Maybe things will go my way this weekend, and it would be a real shame if I chirp back at him, Monday or Sunday, something just like that.
Bite your tongue and wait. I like that approach.
Yeah, and that, or I'll just hold it in, and it'll burn a hole in me for the next 40 or 50 years. But like, I was watching the game again last night. It was on NFL Network, and I said on the podcast, like, "Oh no, guys, Deshaun Elliott just hit Derrick Henry. Like, this looks pretty bad. Like, he may be out for the game. Like, I would really hate it if that like kickstarted Henry's run in the second half." And like, that's the thing. It's like, okay, yeah, he hit him as he was jumping in the air. Like, it was a great hit. It was an awesome hit, and like, it looked awesome. It was really cool, and the picture of him standing over him is great. But it was like, he kind of, the Titans won the game. Derrick Henry kind of ran off with it after that.
Henry,
like
the Earl Thomas stiff arm has about 1/100th the impact if the Ravens won that game.
Oh, absolutely. Like,
so it's like not a thing anymore. It's like, like Derrick Henry owns Earl Thomas, but like we're not going to talk shit because.
Well,
listen, if we're getting into meta territory, maybe he wouldn't have had an orgy with his brother and cheated on his wife and gotten thrown out of town if Derrick Henry didn't traumatize him like that.
Very true. Who was it? Taylor last night on our podcast said he was like, I rewatched the Derrick Henry stiff arm. He's like, after seeing all the stiff arms he had this year, he's like, that one wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
I said it was only bad because of the picture where you see him.
It's photogenic. He's got his arm out. Yeah, it's like
It's a bad visual, yeah. But he was
Henry
like, it
just
wasn't as
rendered
bad
him
as I thought.
completely and utterly useless.
Well, he
And
spun him like a top.
Henry just looks massive compared to like anyone. So like if you get close to him and he sticks that arm out, you got a good chance of getting posterized.
Or he'll just like hit you right in the face with it, like he did the guy in the Lions.
Yeah, it's a mega tough scene there for our guy Earl. Zeech Batman. So we've all assumed that teams would go after Wink as a head coach. So why haven't we seen requests yet? 2 other guys have been reached out for a GM spot. Our team's not allowed to request him because of playoffs. And if he does go, who replaces him? I think they are, right?
Yeah,
and
they're allowed.
Zoom, right?
Yeah, they're allowed. That's happened for Bieniemy's already has like I think he's already interviewed like 3 times or something.
The Jets and the Texans. Yeah, I think we're looking at him.
And maybe it's because the Chiefs have a bye week, but I think they would be like, I think there would be announcements like we plan to interview Wink Martindale if blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I think he only interviewed for the Giants job last year. I don't know. I really don't have an answer. I'm not sure why.
With some of the recent hires that have gone on, and I love Wink, and I think he'd be a good head coach, but like selling a fan base on a guy like Wink Martindale, I think is a lot harder than a guy like Robert Saleh or like Brandon Staley. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's tough. Matthew T. Bunting. After the loss in the playoffs last year, I remember hearing in the Battle of the Bigs, O-line, D-line, tight end, that the Ravens fell short. Is that the case again? Do the Ravens even need to win that particular battle this time around to win? Thanks, guys. Enjoy the game. So I enjoy this question because it kind of does seem to distill down some of the things you were hitting on with the issues that the defense was facing. So what kind of game are you expecting is what I'm asking, I guess.
Well, the Ravens started running to the perimeter endlessly more. That was the very beginning when they started using J.K. Dobbins to attack the perimeter laterally first and then getting upfield. They have really changed. They've solidified what they're doing with their offensive line. The Titans didn't really like smack down on the Ravens offensive line. The Ravens couldn't complete passes when they needed to. Like fucking Lamar was late on like 5 or 6 throws, like missed a couple touchdown opportunities because he was simply staring at it and waited too long, like Derek Carr always fucking does. And I don't think the Titans really dominated that one. They get Saffold back in this one, but Calais Campbell, Brandon Williams coming back is definitely going to put more stress on that Titans offensive line. I think that offensively for the Ravens, a little bit of a stalemate where it's like Simmons is going to win a couple blocks, and I'm sure a couple other guys on the Titans will, but the Ravens will they're not going to put anyone on their ass on the Titans offensive line. The Ravens offensive line doesn't put anyone on their ass unless they're double teaming someone. They move you a yard off the ball. But it just feels like Calais Campbell, Brandon Williams, having a healthy rotation won't wear down late in the game. And I think the Ravens, I mean, at this point, you have to think Campbell and Williams are like going to play one of the better games they've had, the best game they've had all year with the way they're talking. So if they don't, they're going to look like similar to last year, like talking a lot of shit before they've walked the walk. So not they're necessarily talking shit, but they're like, oh, well, you didn't have us last time. It's like, all right, well, if you get fucking ran over and aren't getting off of blocks, then great. Glad you said that. Like that did a lot. So I anticipate the Ravens will win a little bit on the defensive side of the ball, pretty stalemate on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was just going to say, like, they have Calais and Brandon Williams back. Like those are 2 decently sized human beings. So I think, I think they're definitely in the advantage there. Just literally having their bodies on the field.
For sure. And it does follow up a little bit with our guy Ravens Burner, who's got the mustard pants as his Abby, which is great. Do you see Curse getting some run, or is he just depth? Don't really know if he's got any range. Spencer, what do you think about this? Because he's 6'4", got some athleticism there at safety. What do you think about Jayron Curse in this game?
I think he would only get in the event of an injury. I don't see them like getting a guy, him not playing in a single game, and then you're just tossing him out there. Like, maybe like 2 snaps or something. I don't know. Maybe there's a look, a package, a personnel that the Ravens have him in a package for to go cover Jonnu Smith or something. Titans don't really split him out wide much, so that wouldn't even really make sense necessarily. Plus, he's a monstrous blocker. I don't think that Wink is like thinking like, all right, we're getting Curse on the field right now. I feel like he's more for depth, and maybe next week if the Ravens are to advance, that could be a possibility. But as of now, I just don't see him in the most important game probably that your team has played in 6 years, since that Patriots playoff game. I don't think you're throwing a new guy into the fire immediately.
Yeah, that makes sense. Last one from Twitter. This one kind of specifically for you, RDT, from our boy Clay. What young Orioles pitchers do you hope to see in the majors this year? And when does Adley get to start littering Utah with dingers?
Ooh. So
littering, love it. Just drop in the trash.
Meaning like who didn't
When does
pitch
he
in
get called
the,
up, I guess is what
like
he's
I can't pick Dean Kramer.
Pick
'Cause
him
he-
and keep going. Pick him
Alright.
and keep going. Answer both. Answer as if
Alrighty.
he's there and not.
Because I mean, like how many like DL Hall, like you could name all these guys.
Yeah, but like DL and Grayson aren't going to be up this year. Like maybe it's like an Alex Wells type guy who's throws 91, 92, like 93 on a good day, but like it's just a pinpoint, accuracy guy. He was making headlines for like his walk numbers being like the lowest that the league has ever seen. That'd be fun to kind of watch until Judge, plants one 450 to dead center.
I was going to say in this division that might be a tough sell.
Yeah, in the middle of July in Camden Yards and the ball's flying. No, I mean, a guy like that. Who else? The Zach Lauthers and some of those guys who have done pretty well down on the farm. Give me Alex Wells. Give me the Australian because we're big on Australians here in Baltimore. We love our Aussie brothers. And then when does Adley come up? I'm hoping. I mean, I think we definitely see him by the end of the year. Like I don't think it'll be like All-Star break. They'll bring him up or they'll.
I was thinking like late August maybe.
I could see that and again get him some run and get him in the mix a little bit and again just comfortable with the teammates and the guys. And I guess it kind of depends on when, because now I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago they came out and said the minor league season was going to be, they're not going to start it on time. They're going to wait, I think, till all the AAA guys are out and the major league guys are out of the spring training. What's the word? Like facility. And then once they're gone, they're going to quarantine it and get it all clean. And then they're going to bring in the lower level guys. So someone asked me if I thought that was going to affect Adley coming up. Not much. Cause again, he's not coming up to win this year. We'll say that. And I think there's a couple more years before that, but I'm definitely excited. Like you said, I think late August, if they do it early September, it wouldn't surprise me either.
Gun to your head real quick. Gun to your head. Grayson Rodriguez, DL Hall. One of them is the answer. One of them is not. Who is
Grayson?
I agree.
Is or isn't?
Is.
Okay.
I think he's just like
they're right around the same age, right?
I think they're.
Hall might be 22 and Rodriguez is 21, maybe.
I think so.
Something like that.
But I mean, the way that like Grayson is built like a major league pitcher, like he's
gigantic, lanky,
Texas strong guy. Like
20, yeah.
And it's almost like I almost wish it wasn't like this, where it's like Dylan Bundy when he came out of high school was like, oh, the guy's never lifted a barbell in his life. He lives on a farm in Oklahoma and he just dig holes. That's his workout. It's like same thing. Like I could see them being like, yeah, Grayson Rodriguez actually used to like deadlift steers in his hometown of Texas. And I mean, when the video came out during quarantine of him throwing the ball over the lake, it was like a 350-foot lake. And he's just long tossing. It was like, yeah, this guy is. Give me that guy. I mean, I'm definitely excited to see him. Just absolutely punch out guys at the major league level. And I'm excited. I mean, I'm excited for Hall too. Like, don't get me wrong. I just feel like I don't know, just the way he's built. I'm like, that's a pitcher. Like that guy. Like I just said, whoever was built, Rashawn Evans was put on earth to tackle people. Like Grayson Rodriguez was put on earth to throw a ball 99 miles an hour right past you.
Yeah, he's a fucking unit. I cannot wait to watch him. I mean, Adley too. I'm even like whatever limited run he does get this year. Those TikToks are getting me a little ache.
Dude, and that's like the what do they call it? Batting practice bros or whatever. Those videos that they've been putting out of.
Yeah, we've been going back and forth with those a little bit. I think.
Oh my god, they're great. They're so much fun to watch, and like the sound and people. I mean, people on Barstool did not. The commenters on Barstool did not think it was as cool as I did.
Legal.
Cool, a guy, the number one pick is hitting the ball 380 feet with a metal bat. Like, what's so special? It's like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like,
you have ears? Like, do you enjoy?
Yeah, I was like, close your eyes, dude. Like, this is the best sound in sports. Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, it's
tough. I was like, I'm not even getting in the mud in this one. I'm leaving this one.
Once he gets up here full time, I hope you guys get into some video content with him in that regard because we've
already tried to set up the kicking competition with him and Tucker. Like I think there's a legit chance that happens. Like
Okay.
I don't know if Brandon Hyde wants it or if Mike Elias wants it.
Probably not.
But I think we could get something there. And I've talked to Adley about doing a mini golf tournament, because
There you go.
if you follow him on Instagram, he's always golfing, and then him and his buddies go mini golfing. And so I grew up 150 feet from, quote, the world's longest mini golf hole down in Laurel, Maryland. So that's what the sign says. So it has to be true.
Absolutely.
So we can, we want to do like a Ryder Cup type thing, or one of those tournaments. So
as long as you let us attend, then I'm
Oh,
totally.
absolutely.
What is the place in Laurel called?
Rocky Gorge.
Okay,
Yeah.
Rocky
There's
Gorge,
another one too, right? Isn't there another one? Monster or something?
Yeah. Oh no, it's not. Yeah, not that one. That's like right off Route 1, like
Okay,
the indoor monster golf course or whatever.
Yeah.
I've never been to that one, and I don't think I will.
No.
But yeah, Rocky Gorge. I grew up. I mean, we could see those lights. Like we used to walk there. We would sprint through the cow pastures, with our like baseball bats in our hands, running to the batting cage there. So yeah, I played that hole a bunch of times.
I do follow Adley on Instagram, and like him being in Oregon, like I just wrapped up watching like one of my favorite like golf YouTube channels, like just did their whole like travel series out in Oregon, and I'm so jealous like watching him. It's got to be a nice place to call home.
Yeah, and I'm sure Adley doesn't have a problem getting any tee times or getting on any courses out there.
I would not think he does. Yeah, but that's all we have from Twitter. I guess we can hop into the YouTube comments out here, not take up too much more of your time. First one coming from our boy WB Caps. He got some interesting replies here from the people in the comments below him, but he starts off with really enjoying the non-football questions. So here we go. What is everyone's stance on storing chocolate candy in the fridge? Pro or con? For me, it's like if you do it, you can't be doing it for too long because you don't want it to freeze, but I do like doing it here and there.
I like when it's a little bit like half, like I like when chocolate melts a little bit. Like you leave it, not like you left it in your fucking car in the sun for 16 years and found like some disgusting nougat thing. But I like it when it's a little bit melty. I think it brings out the sweetness.
I mean, I have no problem putting chocolate. Like I'm good for like a Reese's cup in the fridge.
Oh,
like I
Reese's
can give it that.
That's a big.
Those are the go for doing.
Yeah,
that.
and like my mom used to always keep like a bag of Hershey's Kisses like in the back of the fridge. So it was always like a nice like, oh, I forgot, we got these back here. But I mean, like if we're talking like Thin Mints have to stay in the freezer. Like those don't leave. Like it's not a fridge. They go right in the freezer.
Cold and they're minty.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you bite into it and you can just feel like the frost explosion. It's delicious. So I mean, I wouldn't shame someone for not keeping it in there, but yeah, I'll throw a Reese's cup or two in there every now and then.
Just got a hot flash to like Kramer talking about the junior mints, but I guess we can roll right through that. We had our boys William and Bailey and the Doc kind of going back and forth from each other. They're always doing that, so they're having a little fun. But we can skip over all that. Wookie Nookies follows up from his Twitter question in here with he keeps his in the fridge right next to the ketamine. Which, listen, however you get down, I'm not going to judge, but move on from that. J.E. Wong, our boy, says, "Holy crap, you guys got Derrick Henry on an interview." Wait, are we talking to Derrick Henry or Tennessee's defense? Also, goddamn, Spenny's beard looking glorious. Yours is coming along, Jake. You'll get there.
Jake's had some monster beards on.
My beard's fucking diesel right now. I don't know what this guy's talking about.
You've also had some girth dragons.
I do, yeah. Like
a year and a half.
Yeah, and I did cut it like 6 weeks ago too, so it's kind of coming back in. But then he says, spitting could be considered chemical warfare in today's COVID world. In these uncertain times, you got to be careful with.
Marcus Peters would know.
Listen, we could have a comment in here about that, I believe. Squash 28 can't cover. Don't know what he's working. Yeah, so Wookie Nookies, once again, he's just having a banner night. Peters gave the Browns COVID with his bio spit attack on Landry, so that's certainly possible. William Bounds, Dobbins, and Lamar about to go gash the Titans D wide open, hopefully. He also says Lamar going deep air yards to Dez for the X. I feel like Dez can't run more than 20 yards. J.E. Wong, Ravens had 500 plus yards of offense against the Titans in the playoffs and scored 12 points.
Because yards have nothing to do with points.
Yeah, you got to love yards Twitter. Like, dude, he had more yards. Like, sick. Like, what are we doing here? They're playing a lot cleaner these past few weeks. Hopefully it'll translate into points when the playoffs start. Our boy Tony Ferrari up in Canada says Derrick Henry looks different on a webcam. Weird. Yeah, you do look a little different, I got to say.
You can't see my massive one dread in the back.
Hiding back there.
It's my favorite thing ever.
The perfect thing to close out on, though, is our boy Davon Johnson says, I thought it was Nick Wright in the thumbnail at a glance.
Oh, God.
I would never have Nick Wright on the show.
Well, him and I are both big LeBron guys.
I was going to say that, yeah, there's
So,
a good connection there.
yeah, I could get down with some Nick Wright. I just remember hearing him on Pardon My Take and being like, oh, he's not that bad. Like,
anyone who like goes on a show like that, I feel like they can kind of make fun of themselves a little bit, which I do like.
And it always ends up like on Pardon My Take, they come up where like I went into the show not caring about Nick Wright at all, and after that, I was like, I could have a beer or two with that
it's
guy.
The same thing like if a celebrity went on like Entourage in like 2005. It's like,
it's like, oh, Michael Phelps was on this week. That was awesome. Like I love that one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was like, I remember when they had the swimmers on in like 2016. That was like big time when I was right getting into Barstool, and like Pardon My Take was kind of my first introduction, and it just blew my mind. Wouldn't be doing this without it. So here we are. But hey, man, hour and a half. Appreciate you coming on. Appreciate your time and your expertise and the humor. A lot of fun, nice little friendship I think we've developed here, and we hope to have you on, in the coming months, years, whatever it is, and hope you have a fun one on Sunday, though I do hope your team loses. So
Thank you. Yeah, it's always fun to come on and chop it up with you guys. And again, I feel like now this is going to be like a yearly thing, and I feel like
they play again next year.
There you go.
No, I don't.
No, they don't.
No, because
you're right.
Jameson Hensley like accidentally tweeted that they did.
I was gonna say there was like that graphic going around, and it was like they play the Titans at home again, and I was like, I don't think they do, because like I looked at the Titans, and the Ravens definitely weren't on there, but. Yeah, I don't know. Again, it will maybe we'll see this budding rivalry.
Is Arthur Smith gone? That's the final question. Is Arthur Smith gone?
Oh well, Jake's buddy JLC was saying that like he wouldn't be surprised. Kenny, me and my kids are watching Ryan Mountcastle. That's what he was saying yesterday.
Having a great game.
He's the fucking worst.
That's the debut of my JLC on here, by the way.
I literally was listening to him today in the car, and he went, "Yeah, Kenny, I don't know."
Okay.
And like but he was saying like, obviously he's getting attention for head coaching jobs, and he was like, it wouldn't surprise me. Again, it's going to be the 1:00 game on Sunday. People are going to be watching. He's like, it wouldn't surprise me if he tries to get cute, and he. With his agent watching and other teams watching, like if he's almost like this is like a precursor to an interview, and he's like, hey, watch this. Here's what we can do. And he's like, and if he just starts pulling out all these stops and AJ Brown throwing, trick plays and stuff like that. So I don't know. I would love it if he stayed. I think he's been fantastic again, it was like ever since Tannehill took over, they've been very, very good. And he's just been a damn genius with the ball. I think he will be gone. I don't know where. I hope it's not, Houston or someone like that. Like that's what I'm like. If he goes to like a Deshaun Watson, same thing with like Eric Bieniemy. Like God, that's gonna be terrifying if Deshaun Watson and if only Deshaun Watson had like a number one receiver that they had over there too.
Yeah, that they could just rely on.
And
somebody he could just throw to on third down that would just or maybe
big guy,
even a Hail Mary if needed. Can just
big guy, dreads, like massive hands, something like that. Yeah. No, I think he's probably gone, and I mean, good for him. This is what I want him to get a head coaching job. I would prefer if it was after a game in early February or something like that he leaves, but we'll see.
Yep, definitely. Well, appreciate you hopping on. Appreciate everyone listening. Would be remiss if I didn't mention kind of a weird time, and kind of glad that we weren't scheduled to record yesterday with everything that had gone on down in DC. So, obviously, hopefully we can provide a little bit of a respite here. Hopefully the Ravens can provide that this weekend, and hang in there. Hopefully things will get better and get normal here in 2021. Off to a little bit of a rocky start, but we will certainly see. And you guys can always hit us up if you ever want to talk about any of that stuff. But appreciate it. Once again, RDT, Spenny, thank you for your time as well. Nice little tight hour and a half. I like that a lot. So we're going to get out of here on that mark. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Follow the show on Twitter at Podcast Beatdown. You can follow me at Jake Luke. That is Louque. Spencer is at Ravens4Dummies. That is the number 4 in the middle. Eric, where can they find you and your stuff?
I'm at EDITTI22 on Twitter. Find me on barstoolsports.com and Exit 52 podcast. It's Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff.
Awesome. Well, appreciate it, buddy. Have yourself a great weekend and enjoy the game, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, guys.